Hello, everybody. In this video, I brought my good friend Bill Brakemeier in, and we're going to talk about why motivation and why motivation, why motivation does not work, and why inspiration does work, and kind of the differences. Bill has been a mentor very much for me and Sarah for helping us avoid the right potholes and make sure that we're doing the right things considering who we are. So I'm very excited to have him share his insights with you guys. This is going to be very powerful for everybody. Bill, do you want to give a intro, kind of a background, what you do and why I might have brought you in here?
Sure. Yeah. So I have been, since 1992, I've been doing coaching, training, teaching with small business owners, and have spent a good amount of time studying psychology, human behavior. Any mentor I could have met with in my early to mid 20s, I did that. Recently celebrated my 50th birthday, dating myself here. But spend my days coaching and facilitating and working a lot in the franchise industry with, as I said, entrepreneurs and people trying to find their calling, trying to find their vocation. So, yeah, that's about it, Leland. I, did a lot of traditional sales training and have been certified in a lot of those courses. So you'll hear a lot of language and vocabulary coming from the sales world, but all that stuff I think plays into our day-to-day work, our day-to-day business. So happy to be on this morning.
Very happy to have you. So you and I both talk a lot about philosophy and values and what the people that we've noticed who are being successful have in common. Where do you think would be a good way to start off this conversation about the difference between inspiration and motivation?
Well, it's interesting because I've asked this question a million times. People use those terms synonymously, if that's a word, synonymously. They use them back and forth like they're the same thing, and they're really not. The root word of motivation is motive, right? And the root word of inspiration is to inspire. And it would be wise for people to pull out the dictionary. And nowadays we go to Google and go check out what they mean. But motivation typically means it's external, right? There's a motive for something. And actually the definition is a reason for doing something, especially one that is hidden or not obvious for motive. And it just means that it may move us into action, but in fact, it's something we have to be reminded by. So motivation is always external. There's some type of person, boss, supervisor, external factor that is pushing us or driving us to do something different than an inspiration. Inspiration is internal. It can mean to inspire. It means to breathe in, believe it or not, or inhale, which we know breathing is so important for the body and mind in regulating what we're doing. But inspiration means it's natural. We roll out of bed and we don't need reminders to tell us what to go do, right? Whatever your highest value in life is, if you're a brand new mom, the first thing you're thinking about is that baby. And so, or if you're a brand new business owner, you're immediately thinking about, you roll out of bed and think, what do I need to do today? How do I find business? How do I take care of clients or patients? And so inspiration normally means it's something creative. It means it's something that adds fuel to your day and is very internal. So if people can just get that one is internal inspiration, one is external motivation, that's a huge distinction for a small business owner. It's a big one.
Yeah, well, and for the people who are working in this group, a lot of them are online, and a lot of them, it's very common that they're externally motivated and that their motives are not pure. And I don't mean that they're not pure. I'm just saying that, they're seeking out subscribers and Instagram likes, and really what they want is maybe transforming people's lives or connecting with the people that and so they're it's easy to get confused with, oh, I'm motivated by this. But as we'll find out as we go into the more values, that when you come up against big challenges, you won't go through the challenges if you're using motivation. That motivation has its limits.
That's right.
And inspiration doesn't. Inspiration it's a different kind of fuel. It's a different kind of energy.
Yeah, you know, I've always heard this, that if you look at your New Year's resolutions, right? Some people set them, some don't. But if you set some New Year's resolutions, the ones that you tend to do every single year are ones you're inspired by, right? Those are internal. The external ones are coming from somebody else. You're listing those things out in the different areas of life, and they're really not your goals. They're not your resolutions. They're somebody else's. So as you're talking about authenticity, talking about owning your own priorities and values, it would be important to identify what their highest values are. And I agree with you with small business owners. I used to give the example that I worked with a lot of healthcare practitioners, a lot of people in alternative work, chiropractors, Chinese medicine, herbalists, naturopaths. And like chiropractors, I had a lot of chiropractors that were inspired to work with patients and do a lot of patient healing and adjustments. And they enjoyed educating on the philosophy and model of chiropractic. But when it came to marketing, when it came to going out and doing health screenings or having to do billing or collections, those parts of the business you have to have in place, they were only motivated to do those things. So they ended up, having to either delegate that out to somebody else, or they had to force themselves to do that at night on the weekends because it wasn't natural. It wasn't normal. Going to their clinic and opening the doors with a huge smile and adjusting patients, they loved it. They were healers, but they didn't want to be business owners. So good example of inspiration versus motivation. We've always said that anything that frustrates you on a daily basis, or anything you're procrastinating on, projects you're not finishing, those are not your highest priorities and values. Just like you said, right? So some people, they may want to grow their business or grow their yoga practice. There are certain parts of that they love. There are other parts they can't stand, right? And we try to fake our way through it, act as if, and try to put a game face on. But it's wise to figure out what those values are, as we've talked about quite a bit.
Yeah. And one of the things that, I pulled this from Tony Robbins at Business Mastery, but he says that, generally speaking, there's 3 types of personalities in business. And so a lot of times when you're a solo entrepreneur or a small team, like the people that we're working with, you're all 3, which means you're going to be using motivation, not inspiration. You're not going to be in your sweet spot all the time. Initially, you've got to be able to do the work to build it up so you can go outsource this to the other person, and you can figure out, Tony says, who are you? You need to know who you are and who you need. So if you're an entrepreneur, or if you're an artist, or you're a manager, and you're inspired by the manager duties, scheduling the things on Facebook, scheduling the emails, doing the metadata, those are all manager duties. Versus if you're not inspired by, running a big flash sale or learning a new campaign or learning a new strategy, you need to go figure out who is inspired by that, and you need to bring them into your organization.
Absolutely.
And it's one of those, as soon as you figure that out, that the difference between motivation and inspiration, and that you should replace the things that you're grinding on, this is my personal opinion, with people who are inspired by that, it's a game changer, because then you can focus all of your energy on the things that you're most inspired by, but you're also doing your friend a favor, or doing whoever is in that other role a favor by putting them in a role that they're inspired by, right? You don't want to delegate to an artist a manager role, or you don't want to delegate somebody outside of their inspiration. Outsource things to people who are actually good at that thing, which seems really easy or simple, but as a lot of people, Sarah and I and the people in this training, we've made that mistake a lot, where we're not motivated by this thing, so we just shovel it off our plate to whoever will take it.
That's
and
right.
then And so you just want to be aware of who's inspired by what, who are you bringing into your organization, and then trying to make them, right, trying to make them as inspired or aligned with their inspirations as possible. Otherwise, you're swimming uphill, right? I mean, if you're not aligned, it'll eventually break down.
Exactly. Well, it would be wise if we're bringing people on to help us, or bringing on contractors, subcontractors to help us, understanding what other people's values are and understanding what their highest values are would allow us to communicate with them in a way that they can, connect the dots, that if you're able to help me do this with my business or venture, it'll allow you to get that. And so connecting their highest values, we tend to want to listen and speak through our own values, and not be over there with the other guy or gal. And it would be wise to not only understand our own values, but then also be curious enough and sincere to figure out what other people value in life, right? Whatever their highest priorities are. I've always heard that we're born with internal values. So we have a ladder, or we have a hierarchy of values. So if you picture a ladder, in the rungs of the ladder, we have our first highest value, our second value, our third value, our fourth value, all the way down. And there's a handful of different exercises you can use to go through that. But if you really think about these things, I meet entrepreneurs all the time. And this is a traditional one I use, kind of a stereotype, but people will say the most important thing in my life is my wife and my kids and God and church, right? And if you were to follow them around all the time and look at their calendar and look at their checkbook, you would figure out pretty quickly that their wife and their kids and church are not their highest values. They may be a workaholic. They might enjoy Saturday college football, maybe not this fall, but spring. They love workouts. They love a lot of things. They love TV or Netflix, binges, but those aren't their highest values. So we have to look at what our life demonstrates. We have to figure out if somebody were to follow me around and, like I said, look at my checkbook and notice what I do in the mornings and nights and on the weekends when nobody's watching, they would get to see what my highest values are. And, first step is identify what those are. Second is to honor those. And then third is to express those, right? To get out, speak up, stand up, show up, and really use those highest values. And I know you and I just talking about meeting today and doing some education here, that just helping people identify their values can change their whole business plan, right? Their whole marketing, if you will, a path forward.
Yeah, well, and there was something you said earlier about, being curious enough to understand another person's values, right? And as a business owner, all of the people that we're working with are learning sales copy, they're learning copywriting, and that's really what you're doing, is you're articulating your client's highest values in your messaging, because they don't give a shit about your values. Like, why would they? Right? They care about their family. They care about, like, I've got extra fluffiness on my stomach and I need to lose it. Like, they don't care that you are inspired by the new training that you did. So understanding the concept between, highest values is really important, but it's a pure communication tool. You will be better at communicating across the entire boards, communicating with yourself, but also communicating with your customers, your clients, your wife, your spouse, your kids. But if you miss it, right, there's no chance. Because if I'm trying to communicate with Bill and connect with Bill, but I'm talking about my number one value, that's probably number 30 on Bill's list, right? He's never going to hear it. But if I talk to Bill about this meeting we can do where we can talk about values and we both know that we like coaching and it's aligned, understanding what inspires another person is incredibly powerful. It's incredibly powerful because it also shows that person that you understand them, right? That you've done the work to look at them, to understand what motivates them, what they want, and then you can talk about it. Right. And if you don't do that, then you basically miss. And then they're like, what is this person talking about? They don't get me. I'm not going to buy from them. I don't trust them. All right. What else, Bill? I've got a couple of notes, but I want to.
So we're using the word values and we're using the word priorities as the same. So our highest values or our highest priorities is what we want to understand. And they're not all equal. They really are. There is your highest value, right? And then your second highest value and third value. Some people say, well, my children are my highest value. But the truth is, even as a parent, there may be one kid that's getting more energy, more money, more time, more effort, right? More perspective and communication. And you got to be honest about what those are. So when you're doing an exercise on identifying your values, it's not a goal setting exercise. We're not trying to sit down and say, what do I want my highest values to be? We're saying, what does my life demonstrate last week, the week before, and the week before that?
So
it does change. Go ahead, Lee.
I'm sorry, I wanted to interrupt because that is the most important thing, because I've had these conversations with values 100 times with everybody, and everybody thinks it's a goal setting exercise. They're always injecting or making up the values that they think they want, or they think that they want you to hear. And we'll take you through some questions at the end, but it's, what is your life demonstrating? And as soon as you put those two together, it's like, I wake up, I do this spontaneously, I'm inspired by this. Then you realize how full of shit you are. And then you can just get rid of all the full of shit stuff and just focus on the stuff that you're truly inspired by. But again, it's not a goal setting. It's not wishful thinking. It's really just looking at your 24 hours, looking at your bank account, looking at your energy levels, all that stuff. But I just wanted to hammer that home, that it's not, look at what your life's demonstrating.
I'll give you an example. Here's another one is, I talk about armchair travelers. These are the people that have all the Hawaiian Island and Condé Nast, traveler magazines. If you really love travel, international travel, then you put time, money, effort, budget, money into those things, and you're on the road 4, 5, 6 months, a year, traveling the world, learning new languages, learning new cultures. Just because you sit around and daydream about it doesn't mean anything. That's an illusion, right? Samsara. You're lost in that. And so it's important that, somebody could say my most important thing is work, but I guarantee if you're a single mom, or maybe you have a kid with some special needs, probably every minute of their day, every dollar they have is going to take care of those kids to keep them healthy and growing. It's not about their work. And that's not a bad thing. For some people, their work or their current business may be number 3 or 4 on the list. That, people are more important in their life. That's okay. There are some people, I have friends that are triathletes all of a sudden, and you can tell they put a lot more time into Tough Mudders and open water swimming than they do their work, right? They may lose their job because they work out so much at the gym, right? Or going for runs. So it's okay for you to love your values and to have other people oppose you or have conflicts with your values. That's normal.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you, I would say, not rocked my world a little bit, but we were talking about one of your kids and about injecting values. So parents have to inject values into their kids as they grow up, but eventually the kids need to shake off those values and
we hope
and discover their own. Yeah, we hope. Right. And so you and I we had a conversation about, is it the parents' job to instill their values, or is it the parents' job to do kind of hands off? And I disagreed with you at the time, but now I've come full circle that no, you need to install your values into your kids.
We can't help it.
Yep. Exactly. It's not even like, it's not that you're doing it or not doing it. It's that You're constantly living your values no matter what. And that's what people are picking up on. And your kids are no different. But you need to encourage them to go shed and go discover their own values. And that can actually be really hard. Like a lot of the stuff that you're describing is when people are going to do the Tough Mudder, or maybe, I was a college athlete pursuing a college basketball career, might have been something that was my highest value, but it also could have been colored and coded with some of my dad's highest values, or even my dad and I bonded a bunch when we were younger over basketball. So I have a good relationship with my dad. So basketball gave me that good relationship with my dad. Therefore, I think that pursuing basketball will lead to the good, but really I just want the good relationship with my dad. So
That's right.
linking, and we'll talk about this a little bit, but linking your highest values to your activities. Can you talk just about what that looks like for people who are like, so for like Sarah and I, we would say family is one of our highest values, but the way that we think about it is we're doing work so we can set up our family for the future. Right. And so, and you can definitely correct me on some of this thinking, because this is why I enjoy talking to you so much. But as I understand, or as I, when I value my family and I'm doing things that might not be as inspiring to me, I can link the things that I need more motivation to my highest value, like my family. Hey, if I go do this thing, I really don't want to do the accounting paperwork. All that stuff sucks. But when I do, I'm going to get that big check from my family, and that's my highest value. And then we can, pay down the house, and my kids will be able to go to college. But can you just talk about linking a little bit?
It's great. I think I've heard this, that if we understand and follow our highest values or purpose, then we stay inspired. We have passion. We have spirit, right? We're spirited, if you will. There's passion about that. Some people may have a current schedule or calendar that is more externally motivated. So they are injected values from society, teachers, preachers, coaches, friends, their spouse, their exes. I can go on and on. But they've got a voice in their head that's saying, you should do this, you should do that, right? Tony Robbins always says, quit shooting on yourself. Go do what you love. Say, I like this, I love this, I want to do this. Not, I should do this, I ought to do this, I have to do this. But in the language, if you're thinking, gosh, I have to do this, then it's externally motivated. You'll see a lot of people will stay in a job that they hate. I think the statistic is 83% of people in corporate America hate their job and don't have a moment of satisfaction throughout the whole week, but they'll stay there because they're externally motivated to keep the job, to pay the mortgage and the bills. But those are values or priorities coming from fear, right? Those are injected values from somebody else. And in society, it is, we're expected or obligated, we feel obligated to stay in a job that we hate to pay the bills. So one of the thoughts is that if you were to draw on your, piece of paper or journal, whatever you're using, this ladder of values, and you look at all those things, know that you're going to get support and challenge day to day. You're going to get support and challenge throughout your week. You're going to get the same amount of support and challenge throughout your month. So you might as well be fully focused on the top 5 things, right? Not numbers 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, which is somebody else's values, externally motivated. We're going to keep attracting the same amount of support and challenge. That never stops. It's not if I follow my highest values, I'm going to attract happiness every day. That's bullshit. That's not real. So we need to know that we're going to be supported and challenged by folks, no matter where we're at on that ladder. So you might as well be doing the stuff that you have talent with, that you have natural strengths with, that you inspire, you're inspired to roll out of bed and go do. And I had this conversation yesterday with a franchisee owner about money. And we were just talking about, he kept saying, well, income and wealth is the most important thing in business. And there's a lot of people that would disagree with him. There's some people that would say, I have a calling in life and I'm looking for meaning. I'm looking for connection. I'm looking for service to humanity. I'm not just about income. And that, these are things that we've got to get into and talk about if you're going to be an entrepreneur. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. We talk a lot about that in some of the trainings, is that, you want to plan your 24 hours, because if you're, a lot of the people that are in this group are similar to you in the fitness space, right? They're coaches, consultants.
Nice.
And so do you want to do one-on-one stuff? Do you want to do group stuff? Do you want to do no stuff coaching because you don't really like coaching? You are motivated by the money piece, right? Designing your business in a way that serves your values, which, right? Like, even as you and I are having this call, these are calls that you and I enjoy having because it's things that we enjoy doing.
Right.
But just being aware of setting yourself up to be successful with your business, with your values, right? Not because if you're successful with your business, but it's not aligned with your values, then you're going to end up in a very shitty trap situation where you're basically enslaved to your business. So one thing that you brought up, so the hierarchy of values is a core teaching of, I mean, it's a John DeMartini teaching, at least where I heard it originally. But one of the things that you taught me was that, so a myth is that you've got your core values and those never change, right? And that's a myth. And one of the reasons why you presented it to me as the myth was after Sarah and I had our first kiddo. You said, well, you, husband and wife, the husband was probably number 1 or 2 on the values list for a while there. But then all of a sudden you have a kid, and it doesn't just move everything down one. It literally blows up the whole ladder, and then everything gets shaken up back. So after we have a kid, husband goes to maybe number 10 or 20, like legitimately number 10 or 20. Yeah. And once you said, initially I was like, no, I'm like 4 or 5. But when you think about it, it's like Roman's number 1, newborn's number 1, right? Mama's health, mama's sleep, mama eating, right? Like, then finances because you just had the kid, right? And then all the way down at the bottom is the husband. And it's not, this is the thing that where people, their emotions might get involved in it. It's not bad. It's not, it's an honest look at Sarah's values after she had a kid, right? And so anytime you have a hierarchy, your hierarchy of values, and you have a big life change, it's not always, they don't move as clean as you would like. A lot of times they get blown up and they get totally restructured, and then you need to figure out where it is.
Leland, we would call those identity crisis. And so either trauma, drama, accident, something happens and everything gets blown up, just like you said. So there's a resorting or a reshuffling of what those values are. It either happens to us reactively, or we can proactively say, today, based on where I'm at, what my lifestyle looks like, finances, my health, right, where I'm at intellectually, spiritually, you can look at all this and say, this is not the way I wanted life to be, right? This is not the outcome I was looking for. If that's true, you can proactively try to shift your values, because your values are setting up your habits. They're setting up your routines. And those habits and routines give you your destiny. We've heard that over and over again. But we think, well, I'll keep adding these better behaviors, or I'll get some improved habits. And better to look at your values first, your highest values first, and then and then the habits will follow, believe it or not. Yeah. And so mentally and emotionally, we have to be integrated and linked into, you're using the word linking, into those. I think Dan Siegel has said over and over again at UCLA that self-awareness really is a matter of linking and integration of the brain. So we're integrating different parts of the brain, and we want to tie those to our highest values, which I think you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, well, and one of the ways that I do it, just for people, I mean, what does this look like in real life? I know that health is one of my highest values, but I am bored to death by routine. So I'm not the person who can wake up and go run 4 miles every day and just like clockwork. But I am the person who can be learning something new about fitness and then be inspired enough to wake up early and go do it. But if it's the same thing over and over again, I'll never do it because it's just boring, right? So I know that in order for me to be healthy and maintain my routine, it needs to be kept fresh and new and exciting, right? Yep. And so I link the learning of new things into my health routine. Otherwise I just wouldn't be able to do it. There's just no way that would be too bored. Dieting is the same thing for people. If you're unsuccessful dieting and you're bored, keep trying new diets, because you might be inspired by the newness or the tweaking. All right, a little bit off track.
Two other things I want to share about values. We need to remember that perceived voids drive values. So whatever we believe is most missing in our life is what we chase. How many times have we had friends, adult friends, go through a divorce or separation, right? They go through some traumatic separation. Next thing you know, they're on the online dating portals. They're losing weight. They're buying a new wardrobe, cleaning out the house. I mean, they'll do anything, right? The void is, I now am all alone. I have no relationship. What's everything I need to do day to day, week to week, to go find a new person in my life? So voids drive values. If you lose your job, all of a sudden the number one thing on your values is, resume, interviewing, I got to pay the bills. I might need a loan. I need to call family and friends. I need help here. So our voids drive our values. So as you're looking at your values and starting to identify those and then prioritize those, you need to know that there's underlying voids driving those things, perceived voids.
So when you say perceived voids, so because when I learned about perceived voids and that voids drive values, now whenever I perceive a void, I always ask myself, is that actually a void, right? Or am I just perceiving it, or does it even matter because I appear to be inspired by it? Right. So how should I think about that?
Some people would use the terminology that there's our reality, our subjective reality, right? And then there's actuality. Not that we want to get into politics with November coming here, but if we were to interview 5 people about what should happen in November, we're going to get a lot of subjective reality. I believe this. I think this. These are my opinions. These are my assumptions. So there's your reality, which is perceived in the brain, tied to emotions, right? And then there's actuality of what is going to occur, right? That's not in our control. That's when you start studying cosmology and the universe and that type of stuff. So very different. But in our perceived void, we have to remember there's a law of relativity, meaning somebody else may look at me and say, gosh, his income, his net worth, where he lives, his family life, they've got it all made. But I might be comparing myself relative to somebody else. I've got friends that probably have net worth of 25, 50 million. I'm just using money in this example. But I may look at them and go, gosh, I'm way behind. So my perceived void is, we need to get caught up with finances. I need to make more money. We need to save more. We need to invest more. And so that's just a void that would drive a value called personal finances, right? Or better cash flow. So just one of those things, Leland, that ultimately, you've just got to see where those voids are coming from. And the voids normally are coming from family, friends, neighbors, everything we just talked about, teachers, siblings. It makes sense? You may be frozen right now. The other thing I wanted to say about values, this is a good one, is that we have to remember that shame and guilt will block your wealth and vocation. So just know that if we've been living in other people's values or injected values for long enough, we will feel guilt or we'll feel shame because we're not following our values. And to the degree we have that, it'll create a conflict of interest in the mind and emotions. So a lot of times the body or the emotions will tip us off to being off track, to not following our own values. So that's it's important just to make sure that we have that. I don't know, Leland may be off. the Zoom meeting here for a minute are having some of those issues. So in terms of figuring out your values, you guys are probably thinking, I need to figure this out quickly. But there's a handful of questions. Do you have those 13 questions, Leland?
Yeah.
And so there's ways to determine what your values are. And some of those start off with the basics, like where do I put all my money? Where's all my money going week to week? Another one might be where do I spend all my time? It'd be easy to go to your calendar and really look at where all your time goes. Some people may say I'm at work all the time, but they're not working. If you're a small business owner, then you're really wanting to think through, if I am concentrating on my business 8 hours a day, where are those little pockets of time? Are you focused on money? Are you focused on, oh, here you go, screen share. So what do you fill your space with?
Well, hold on. Let's see. Can you hear me all right? Just
Yep. Go
come
ahead.
back here. So, yeah. So, I mean, we'll go through these questions, but this is just why motivation doesn't work. And hopefully by going through this as like an exercise for people individually, that they can figure out where they're injecting values, where their actual core values are, and then hopefully just get rid of the stuff that's not serving them. Right. And then focus on the stuff that's the most inspired, or figure out who they can get to help them in the roles that are the most painful, most work, most least inspiring.
That makes sense.
Cool. So we'll just tackle them one at a time. Do you want to go through them one? Yeah, let's just go through them one by one real quick and just talk about them to get a quick idea for people. So the first one is, what do you fill your space with? And when I first looked at this question, he actually said 3 to 4 feet. And so just look around your daily life. How close is your cell phone? Do you have a note card, or do you have a notepad? Do you have a computer? Like, what the stuff that you keep within close proximity is going to be high in your values list.
Including your office, including your desk, including your car, right? Or SUV.
Yeah. Look in your car. It's funny. For me, and for a lot of people that work online, like, your cell phone is such a big piece of your values, your business, if you value your business and you value connections, that I always have my cell phone within arm's reach, or I feel naked, which, what do you spend your time on? This is where the honesty is going to start coming in. So wake up, what's the first hour? What's the second hour? Map it out. And if you're sitting on the couch watching Netflix for a couple hours, write that down. It's not a bad thing. That's telling you something about something.
Yep.
Right.
Your values are wrapped up in whatever it is you're studying or watching on TV. It's a different form of research, right? Some people I've got a 14-year-old who's on YouTube all day long. That's not a bad thing. He may learn 18 new things every day on 4-minute videos, So.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you spend your time on? What energizes you the most?
What gives you energy? What fuels you? Yep.
Yeah. And pay attention to the ones that are not external, right? If you're getting energized because your boss is calling you and saying, get your ass to work, it's the wrong type of energy.
Right.
Right. What do you spend your money on? Again, this is a very real one. So look at your bank account, try to figure out exactly, what you spend your money on. Family, food, like drugs, alcohol, all that stuff. All right. Well, we lost that. We'll just go through, my screen froze on my computer, but we'll just go through these manually. So
I've got it up. The next one's, where are you most organized? Some people have a very organized kids schedule, right? Like a school calendar. Some people have a very organized mind. Some people may have a very, like for you, I know this, very organized regiment, for working out. And so even though you change it around, you're pretty damn organized on when you're going to work out, what you're doing, what you're covering. Some people are like that with supplements and nutrition. So wherever you're organized the most.
Yeah, and the other thing, I've got the list up here now. The other good question is, where are you not organized? So for me, it's really helpful to look at the opposites of these questions, because then you just know that I'm never going to be that person. Like, I'm not going to be the person who is just super hyper organized, manager tasks. With business, I'm not going to be the one who loves editing and loves uploading and loves scheduling things. I've tried it before. It's chaos. But if it's like, how do you build this thing, the sales funnel? Very easy. One, two, three. Nice. Where are you the most disciplined and the most reliable?
Yep.
Yep. And same deal, right? Organization, discipline, reliable.
Yep. And you look at all areas of life, you can prioritize those pretty quickly, right? So career, family, finances, health, mental, social, spiritual. You can look at all these different areas and go, where am I the most disciplined, right? Where am I?
What do you think about the most? We'll bust through the last 5 of these pretty quick here.
Okay.
So what do you think about the most? So just what are you trying to think about? What's on your brain the most? What do you visualize, which is similar, but when your eyes are closed, what are you seeing?
Right.
What do you internally dialogue about the most?
Right. What do you talk to yourself about in the shower, in the car, right? We talk to ourselves all day long. That's right.
Yeah. What do you want to converse with others about the most? So what do you want to talk about with other people the most?
Right.
That's one of those interesting things too, where I'll just stop hanging out with people. In the last couple of years since I stopped, now that I have a better understanding of my values, I know that if I go to the bar and hang out with these people and have these conversations, none of it's going to be things I want to talk about. So I'm just not going to do it. Like, it's not in my highest values. So what is consistent with the people that inspire you? Same thing. Everybody has heroes they look up to. That might even be the values voids thing, right? You're perceiving a void in the person. I think I've got that right. But what's consistent about the 3 people that inspire you the most?
Great idea there for target marketing and branding and thinking about the people you naturally attract into your life. I say that to small business owners all the time. They're like, well, who do I go sell? How do I prospect? Who should I network with? It is the people that inspire you, right? That give you energy, that you want to be around. So from a marketing standpoint, that would be smart for yoga.
Yeah, absolutely. What are your 3 most consistent goals? And so I think he means that maybe over time or over a period of time. What have you been thinking about consistently that drives? And then the last one, what do you love learning about the most? What turns on your executive center, what fires your brain up? And so I'll share these questions at the bottom of this video so everybody can answer them for themselves. And then, Bill, is any last comments before, and you can tell people how to get in contact with you if they want to help you.
Kind of the instructions on this too is that make sure you're listing number 1, 2, 3, or 4. So if I say, what is my space filled with? Books, right? Number 2 might be client worksheets and client folders, file folders. Third would be teenager stuff. I got teenager things everywhere. So, but you're wanting to list number 1, number 2, number 3 on each of the 13 questions. So you're going to have 39 answers, and you can go through with your own method of kind of tallying these up. But you would go through and you're going to see patterns, right? Trends are going to show up on what those are. There should be no judgment on this, right? This isn't somebody else's values. You don't need to get permission from somebody else to write out the list or go and ask 10 people, are these my values? You should know if these are your values, right? Otherwise, you may go through and see some things that don't make sense. They're probably injected values. You're still living under mom and dad's principles or somebody else's lifestyle, and that may be something to go to work on, right? And shift that. But that's, I would say in all my years of teaching, almost 30 years of working with small business owners, the number 1 key thing to work on is values. Understand your values, honor your values, express your life from those values, which you and I have been talking about for several years now. Right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I just want to echo that it's 100% in my experience, the people who understand their values their probability of success is just so much greater because there's no friction. There's a lot less friction because they know what inspires them. And when you know it inspires you, it's just easy to go forward. So Bill is in the group. So if you guys have any questions or you want personal coaching, you can, is it okay if they just tag you or write you a message? Is that a good way to
Sure. Do it? I'm here in Denver and available and work with people all over the country.
Yes. And Bill is incredible. He's worked with me and Sarah and again, just from a business and understanding your own personal values, I could not recommend him highly enough. And he's got tons of background in a lot of the philosophical yoga type mindset stuff that would resonate with everybody in this group. So really powerful guy. I appreciate you joining us very much, Bill.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
See ya.